Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another FPV Chat. How's everyone doing? Looks like we've got quite a few folks here already. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. Ripper FPV was here early asking questions. Hope we answered that for him. Apache Smoke Wounded Snipers here. How's it going, man? Flyer Tuck, Chris FPV, Michael Lowndes, Four Little Pigs. Four Little Pigs, never seen you here before. Welcome. John Cuppy, Dave Pencilglen, Blast 3D, welcome. Sonic Tonic, Pedro Tome. Glad to see everybody here. MP's here. How's it going, MP? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Back by popular demand, we have the pup cam here. But I'm not sure that it's actually doing much at this juncture. Later, if there's movement, it might help out. But currently, we can... Oh, actually, it does help out now. Earlier, you could see stuff. Yeah. Then we've also got, you know, just in case we need to see that we can move chat to the other side on that screen. Oh. All right. Callie's here. How's it going, Callie? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Got a new little intro I made this morning. Nothing special, but trying to jazz up the stream. So BH3 FPV is here. He says the latest Radiohead video is filmed with a DVR whoop footage. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. MP, I do have the Velocidrone Freestyle map, or pack. Office Park, I have not flown in it, so I cannot tell you. I think, like you may know, I'm not a big freestyler in the simulator, so I have the pack just so I can use some of the quads and stuff, but I've only been racing those quads. I think they put out footage like right when the you might check the official Velocidrone YouTube page. I think they put footage out like right when it came out, but I'm not 100% on that. Everything's working. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. The Action 2 came out. That seems like kind of a flop, at least for me. RC Ritter, how's it going? Scott Walker, yeah, that's not surprising at all in any capacity. Dave Pencilglen, the password was just for last night. It disappeared. It just went up like a little while ago. Yeah, RC Ritter, the price is high. I mean, I just don't think the form factor makes any sense, but I'm interested to see what other people end up thinking about that. On Ferocitor, what do I think about the AOS series of frames? They seem like a solid set of frames if you want a solid set of frames. They're focused around reducing filtering, so if you don't reduce filtering latency to the edge, you're not really going to get that big of a benefit out of them versus another frame. But otherwise, they have good resonance characteristics, and they seem to hold up fairly well. Downsides are like they're only cut by like one place, so it's kind of hard to get parts if you need them. You got to order them from CNC Madness, I think. But yeah. Alberex, do you think it's a bad time to pick up a first set of analog goggles? I don't know that it's a bad time, but HGO2's been out a long time, so I don't know that we have any indication there's a new HDO goggle coming, and it's possible that HDO goggle will be digital only, and it would be Sharkbite. So I don't know. There's no telling. That goggle was supposed to come out already and did not. So that's really hard to say. If you really want to try Sharkbite and you have the money to spend, then you should just do it. But for me, it's just so much money to get into it. I'm in the same situation where I have DJI with the analog bond, so it's too much for me right now. I would probably wait for the next HD0 solution. Orca has their own digital system, so while you may be able to plug HD0 into it, Uh, yeah, I don't think they'll do that. They're doing their own open source system, but there's no telling when that'll come. Sounds like 2022 or 2023, honestly, but uh Blythen's here. How's it going, Blythen? Flyer Tuck says, "Have you ever crashed a tiny whoop in your hair?" Yes, I have. Actually, at the um, what the hell is it called? Whooptopia? No, Whoop Wars. When we did Whoop Wars in Denver, I got whoop stuck in my beard during a race. So I was racing, and then somebody else crashed into my beard, and I was trying to race while we did it, but I was like, we have to stop and redo this. So I flew for a little while with it in there though, but it just wasn't happening. Yeah, Scott Walker, I've never heard about any DLAM issues with the AOS frames. So also he's using custom carbon for his arms now. I don't know if you know that. At least on the race frame. I don't know if the other ones are like that or if they have to be because of the way the frame works, but I know the race frame has carbon he like is designed. It's just a different layup he's selling to him. Or like working. I think he's selling it to them, he said. Alberex, yeah, Orca will be coming out with something new, but we have no idea when. So I hope it's sometime soon. Scott, he's pretty clear how the layup works if you watch the video. So I'm not a physical scientist. He's an aerospace engineer. So I'm not going to argue with it. Like, it makes a lot of sense, and I don't have any way that I could refute that. So also the cost difference is not that big because you're only doing the arms. So it seems worthwhile if it like actually makes a difference. I think it's like 120, right? HD0 is 52. Alberex, you can email anything you actually saw to it's blunttyfpv at gmail.com or news at fpvknowitall.com if you actually have a source on anything like that. But I haven't seen anything like that, like an actual employee saying that. So give me that link. Yeah, definitely can't turtle out of the beard. That's for sure. Yeah, HD0 is definitely doing a 4.3 cam, but I don't know anything about analog goggles, so I have no idea how aspect ratio works on an analog goggle. Scott, I don't know if you noticed, but like the point is it's sandwiched. So no matter what layup you compare to it, like none of them do the sandwich deal. So I think that's the whole thing. It seems like the novel bit here. With Jeff Grabowski over on Facebook. How's it going, Jeff? John, I did not see that. I don't really follow too much of that stuff from other people. Just because I don't, know enough about it. So try to stay in my lane. Maybe. Grab your FPVs here. How's it going? No, it won't let you link anything. It doesn't even let me approve it. It just blocks all the links. I can put a link to it, but I'm sure everybody in here already knows about it, so. I'll just link the JB video. For anybody who doesn't know, there's a Flow State documentary coming out in 3 more days that you can pre-buy a film. It's only 3? I thought it was the 9th or the 8th that you could view it. Is it not? Yeah, it's the 8th, November 8th. You can view it. So 7 more days. But yeah, you buy a ticket to the film festival there, and then you can stream it anytime after the 8th. It's Darts. How's it going? Flyer Tuck. Sounds like you have anxiety. That's what I would say. That's going to come from more flying. That's like anything else. You either need a beta blocker or you need to practice flying more. That's like 100%. Like that's what I would also call is like performance anxiety or whatever. Um, like it's a very similar thing. Like where you get a rush of adrenaline and then you're either getting a crash or you're getting the adrenaline shakes like at the end because you're worried about other times you've crashed at the end. So you're like have like an anxiety loop. I would say it's probably one of the two. But either way, for me, that always just is like practice, 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 like over and over again, so that there is no, that adrenaline starts to go away, or that adrenaline doesn't like go like whoa, up in the sky. And then if you have a condition like I have socialized and generalized anxiety disorder, um, you can either use breathing exercises, you can use CBT, cognitive behavioral. Yeah, cannabis helps for some people. Um, Beta blockers are really good. They're not addictive. They're freaking awesome, to be honest. And most doctors will just give them to you because they're also like a blood pressure medication. But beta blockers will stop beta adrenaline. There's a lot of different solutions, but I would definitely like see what you can do about like working through it on your own, doing breathing exercises, practicing, like trying to push that anxiety away so that adrenaline doesn't spike. Um, and then if you get to the point where you can't handle that or you're not achieving that, then I would say that's kind of an indicator, like an early indicator of like an anxiety thing. And maybe you would talk to the doctor about that. Like adrenaline is normal, but like the heavy shakes where you can't control is definitely a problem. So like that's not something you want. Um, you should be able to control that anxiety enough so that you don't have so much fight or flight that you can't perform. That might happen in other situations too, like an emergency situation. That's not FPV related. The next time your anxiety spikes. Let's see. Ferociter, any comments about new beta flight version? I mean, 4.2.10 is a version. You should be on 4.2.10 if you're on 4.2. And then 4.3 is still in nightlies. So I don't really have any comments about that. When it's in a release candidate, I would assume most people should go to 4.3, or at least it will be more feasible for people to go to 4.3. And that will mean the configurator is in release candidate as well. But yeah, I would not like recommend people go to 4.3 right now unless you have a board that needs it. And there's a special barometer, and there's a like the SPI Express LRS chips. Uh, both of those are like um, need a 4.3 a Betaflight. Um, Crabtree says, I'll just jump to this real quick. I'm glad you said that. I was shaking bad at a fly-through shoot. One thing I'll say is, yeah, Flyer Tuck says it's bad. I almost fall down. I have to set my bird down on the field. So I would certainly recommend you talk to the doctor about that. Um, if you if you do any research on beta blockers and like listen to any people like a lot of the comedy podcasts I listen to, like with professional comedians, like Whitney Cummings has talked about this, Bobby Lee, um, people like that, like who go to do any kind of like audition or whatever, they'll like always take beta blockers before the audition, and that's the only way they can do their audition. It's one of those things where like once you learn these tools exist, like they're really awesome. Now there's obviously other things like Xanax and Valium that some people will need, but those things I do not recommend as they're addictive and physically and mentally addictive. Instead, I think beta blockers help you work through these things and like do it on your own. And also, it's not addictive. If you take more, it doesn't like have a tolerance. They're amazing, to be honest with you. My doctor and many other doctors I've been to have all been like, "Oh yeah, you want them, no problem," because they're very happy to prescribe them instead of something um, like a benzodiazepine. As Crabtree says, Xanax and Valium work too good. Yeah, they work really good, and they're also addictive. So that's what I would say. All right, let's catch back up on chat real quick. We jumped the old chat hop here. Did the old chat? Let's see. Yeah, I don't think the rushes are bad. I think um, I think the big thing is just making sure you understand the highs and lows that you have, and that they're okay for you and manageable. Right? That's the big thing. As long as it's manageable, that's the important part. There are certainly adrenaline junkies; they love it, but you don't want to come down from that and just be like this, where you can't like function. Unless that's okay with you. But the things described in chat, for instance, are situations where you kind of go past that point. So again, you don't want to like crash your car and then like go into shock and can't like get out of your car. Like stuff like that is like crazy to think, but also it happens. And I've been in flight or fight situations like in car wrecks. And tell you what, beta blockers really help. They're also short acting, so you can kind of take them like a Xanax. I used to take 3 a day. I don't have insurance anymore, so I don't take them anymore. But if I had insurance, I would. Good old United States. Why is it talking about four screw breathing? Yeah, there are some different breathing techniques where you can breathe in and then breathe out for longer, or the vice versa, like cyclical breathing. Um, Lots of different ways to control that, like adrenaline, and get that fight or flight to push down. That's what cognitive behavioral therapy is about. Is like teaching your brain, like through exercises, like literally telling yourself in some cases, like this is anxiety. I'm experiencing an adrenaline spike because of what I'm doing right now. I know that this adrenaline spike is only because of the actions that have happened to cause chemicals in my brain to activate them. Even just talking through that stuff, especially with practice, can help you get through it. Um, yeah, again, just stuff to consider. I ain't no doctor. Why, then they are great for racing. Absolutely excellent they're like a secret bullet for racing. Some people continue to mention cannabis. I agree. Cannabis is great. Some people, though, especially if you don't smoke all the time, cannabis can really rip you the other way and give you a small panic attack. So you got to be used to it and understanding. CBD is really good. CBD can rip that anxiety away pretty well, in my experience. especially like dabs. I've dabbed CBD a couple times, like isolate, and it just feels like it like yanks it right out of you. Also yanks the high out of you, but if you're looking for that, talk about, yeah, many people mention indicas. I think for many people, you're just going to have to learn what strains work well with you. But in general, indicas are going to help. Indicas. Frequently fascinated. How's it going? Good to see you. I do have multiple anxiety disorders diagnosed, so this gave me experience from my uh, time with anxiety disorders. Alberex, if you watch any FPV news video, it is literally on the screen the entire time, unless we cut away. It's news at fpvknowitall.com. Athix is here. How's it going, Athix? Yeah, Crabtree, part of why I pinch is because of the shakes. 100%. Especially races. Races, I get horrible shakes in races. Edoc says cannabis makes you fly slower. Yeah, for me it's the opposite. Like I have to like smoking a bunch of weed and then like putting on like good music will keep me like in a good zone where I don't spike too hard, but I also don't fall out of it and kind of ride a little wave. But it depends on like how long the races are and stuff. It's like stalling and stuff, or like repeating heats and stuff can really drive me crazy. Delta 8 seems like a good option from people I've heard. I've never used it, but it's already been regulated here in Colorado. Flyer Tuck says it was banned in another state last week. It's definitely spreading. The bans are spreading on it, so I think it'll depend state to state. Um, and it's not easy for me to try here, unfortunately. I'm in Colorado. But, Alexander asks about the Q-tip looking stick ends. The thumb grippies, I'm sure is what you're talking about. Yeah, we talked about them a little bit on one of the monthly roundups. I have never tried them though, so I don't really have a lot of budget for FPV stuff. So maybe at some point I'll order them. Johnny D's here. How's it going? Yeah, about 800 people messaged me about the Jetson One, so we definitely brought it up. That's for sure. I mean, it is just a big drone. It's just got a person in it, so. James Flores is here. How's it going? I'm doing well. Dave Pencil Glenn says he enjoys Delta 8 for his anxiety. That's good to hear. Crabtree, if you cannot find Q-tips for the X-Lite, if it's like a weird size, if you message that guy, he'll probably make you more. I think he makes those personally with like resin casting or whatever. He's a nice guy though. I've emailed him a couple times. That's why we put it on the thing, is because he emailed me about him. Um, so yeah, if you just shoot him a contact, then uh, I'm sure he can help out. He likes the ripsticks. That's kind of interesting. I've not seen those much. Athix, there's a bunch of Delta 8. There's a bunch of Delta 8. Uh, you just Google Delta 8. There's Delta 8 everywhere. I don't know what's real and what's fake and who to buy from or anything like that. Um, so I would Google probably do some research before I ordered anything. And then different states are banning it, and sources are hard, so. Frequently Fascinating wants to know about the bone drone. I've definitely never flown the bone drone. There's um, the Chinook frame, I think is what people were calling it before. There's like a Chinook frame from a while back. Oh, Crabtree, thanks for $4, man. Much appreciated. Thank you very much for the super chat. A couple more of those, and maybe I'll order some thumb grippies. Let's see. Johnny Five says Henry Cam. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that Chinook frame we took a look at a while back. There's a 3D printed Chinook frame and a couple different options for it. Seems interesting. Rotorite did one. I think it's more like a novelty though. Yeah, Henry Cam was an old staple, but we've got the Henry Cam back. Ripper, how's it going? I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Matthew Vegas here. How's it going, man? Good to see you. Isaac Mitchell is a fan of the TBS Honey Sticks. I've heard good things about those. A bicopter? I have no idea who came up with the bicopter. I feel like that's got to be like an old thing. It might have been David Windestall, but I don't have any idea who actually came up with that. I feel like it's probably older than David Windestall. Also, I guess it depends on which kind of bicopter we're talking about, too, right? Because there's the side-to-side bicopter. Let's just take a look at what I'm looking at here. There's a side-to-side bicopter, right? Like this one, which flies forward and backwards, and these are on the side. And then you've got the Chinook frame. Oops. Yeah. Like the RC Chinook, like Tom Stanton's version of it, which is the front to back version. Let's see. Krasimir K says, "Can I develop bad habits from too much simulator gaming before I get my first drone?" Sure, but it's better to just spend that time anyway. Like I would still spend that time. Like the downsides you're gonna get are way worse, like way less than the upsides you're gonna get from spending all that time in the simulator. You're gonna be way better after the simulator. So the downsides that you're gonna get are you're gonna have like, okay, batteries are real. So remember, you're gonna have not only are you gonna have a battery, your battery's gonna add weight. Your battery's gonna have dynamics. You have to charge and drain your battery. Your battery's going to have sag. So when you punch out, you're gonna see different responses in the throttle. All these are like things you'll learn as you fly. So not a big deal. Things that like actually will matter. Crashes, like you break stuff, right? So like the big thing will be in the sim, you just click the reset button and you just get to fly again. When you go out to fly and you crash, there's some chance that you broke something, depending on where you flew from. So just remember that you need to be more careful in real life when you're flying. Also, like there's adrenaline, like we talked about earlier a little bit. There's all the different mechanics of like wind. There's real life physics. Maybe one of the motors is messed up. Maybe you don't have a perfect tune and there's a perfect tune in the sim. But all these things are gonna like still be things you're just gonna learn as you fly, and that's stuff you need real time for. So it's not gonna replace that time, but it is gonna give you stick time, and it's gonna teach you better like muscle response, like how a quad would fly, like even what a racing line is, depending on how far you get into it. It's only gonna help you. That's what I would say. So I don't think it's like, I don't think there's any damage that you're doing. I would continue to spend time. However, one thing I'll tell you is if you do one or two real flights and then go back to the sim, you're going to have a way different respect for what you're doing. So maybe that's a better way to think about it, right? It's like, hey, if I go get one real flight in or two real flights in, and I feel what that's going to feel like, and now I like, oh, here's how the wind affected me, and here's what a PID tune was like, and here's how shaky it was, and like all those things. Then when you go back, you're going to have a better respect for what you're doing, and a better handle on like how the things are flying. But overall, I would say it's always better to spend time in the sim. That's what I would say. Also, go crash the drone and then spend the time in the sim learning more while you fix the drone, or you wait on parts as well. That's something you got to get used to doing too. All right, let's see. What did I miss? Rossiter wants to know about Edge TX. A TX16S, you'll get touchscreen support with Edge TX, and then you'll get a benefit of increased, like way lower USB latency on a simulator. But other than that, I don't know that you're going to get any like blow you away benefits, um, right away. I can't think of any like actual physical changes that would help you otherwise. But it's also very easy. I mean, it took me 5 minutes to upgrade my T16 to Edge TX. I know what I'm doing, but I also followed a guide that I feel like was pretty clear on the edgetx.org. So. Crabtree says, I learned most of my tricks from playing a sim. Yeah, that's a great way to do it. Is like, hey, here's what stick inputs I'm going to need to make this thing happen. And then you do those stick inputs a whole bunch of times. And then when you go out in the real world, you have this muscle idea of like what those stick inputs are going to be. And then your brain can do the rest of the work and get you there and learn all the other parts of it and account for all the changes. Definitely a quad is way better than a fixed wing in the wind. That's for sure. 4 blades and a nice, 4 motors and a nice PID controller definitely are nice. Yeah, I don't think anybody should stop flying the sim. That's what I would say. Verocitor, I don't know what that means. I'm not sure about less latency or work better with crossfire or how that would be affected. If you're talking about crossfire shot and you don't have a supporting crossfire shot OpenTX, then you should be updating to that. But that's just normal OpenTX currently supports crossfire shot. There's no reason to go to Edge for crossfire shot. Alberex, I have no idea about 250 hertz being noticeable. I have no idea. Danish Stallions here. How's it going, man? Good to see you. Yeah, I mean, if you want Crossfire Shot, you should be updating to the latest OpenTX regardless. Well, you could either do the latest OpenTX mainline, it's been at Crossfire Shot's been in there for a little while, or you can do EdgeTX. That's completely up to you. Yeah, I mean, just anybody who's telling you they know the difference between 250 hertz or 500 hertz or don't feel the difference, like that's all opinion. Just remember that any answers are going to be opinion based. I've never seen anybody do a double blind test where they don't know what the Lua is set to. Somebody changes it for them and they fly it over and over again and then compare the two. So until I see that, I don't believe anybody actually knows if they know the difference or not. I mean, if you say you can't feel the difference, then maybe you can't feel the difference, and that is what it is. But I would say some people might be able to tell the difference. So I think a double blind is the only way to really know that. Uh, Crossfire shot is a method to sync up the mixer to the external module, so it's not necessary for the internal. Like it's already synced the way it's built. So there's no requirement for crossfire shot with the internal modules because it's like it's part of the way it works. On the Mambo, it's actually running on the same processor as Freedom TX. There's not even any crossover on the processor, so I believe it's like a hard interrupt, and the mixer is on the same exact frequency. Remember, you're not going to see crossfire shot when you pick it. Like if you go in the list and just pick CRSF, you're not going to see CRSF shot there. That's not where it shows up. It shows up in the module options when you go in the crossfire options. So if you don't see it externally when you plug in on your Freedom TX radio, like if you're using a Mambo and you plug in a crossfire, you still got to go in the crossfire settings and you'll see it in the settings that crossfire shot is active. See, it'll still say CRSF on the radio external module setting. For Rossiter, that is not correct. So Edge TX has had 2 major releases already. So I don't think there's anything uncompleted or buggy that I've seen. I mean, it was in nightlies and testing for a long time, and now it's in releases. So I would say it's totally flashable, but it's up to you if you want to go to that or stay on OpenTX. Yeah, so basically what happened, I actually have a, hold on. I actually made a document, so you might as well look at the thing I made for this, right? See which is the latest one here. I don't think this is actually the latest one, but it'll work for now. Okay, essentially what we're doing here, right? We're talking about crossfire shot. So mixer sync is what it's also called. It's just called crossfire shot for crossfire. Okay. So on standard OpenTX radio, there's a gimbal update rate. The protocol has like a gimbal sampling rate to the mixer. Okay. So that's the rate that would come in here. Okay. Then that goes into the radio mixer. Then when the radio mixer goes through, there's delay in the UART going to the external module. So this is the external module. But normally what happens is there's a delay here. Okay. And this delay here that you see right here, This delay is because this is not synced to the gimbal rate. Okay, so the gimbal could be talking every 230 tick, like 230 times a second, let's say. Okay, but this could be talking 500 times a second. So at some point or another, you're going to have waiting between this delay and between this desynced from this. So what MixerSync decides to do is says, hey, let's avoid this problem here by using the external module and talking behind the mixer, right? And saying like, let's just sync the gimbal rate up to the frame time coming from the external module. So basically it's kind of going through and cheating the way to do it. It's like a way to get around, like, to cheat that latency out. Because otherwise you have this delay latency while you wait. I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Back we go. Let's see. Using DJI OSD, what would be considered a critical number for LQ on Tracer? No idea. If you look in that Tracer manual, though, I bet it tells you. I would look in the Tracer manual. And if not, I would post on TBS, Team Black Sheep, Facebook, and ask. Crabtree, not all of them, unless that's changed. Some of the FPV cycle motors are RC and power. Some used to be Brother Hobby, but he doesn't work with Brother Hobby anymore. Some were T-Motor, I think, or he talked to T-Motor for a while. I don't know. Are they all RC and power now? You just check the version. You should be running 2.3. So I don't know. It's like 2.3.6 or 2.3.7 or something like that. Or you have to go, like, you plug in your external module, and then you go into the Crossfire menu, and there'll be a section in the Crossfire menu that explains that shows you Crossfire shot is active or not. It's like the protocol that's active. Again, I would update it. If you're on release, you need to update that OpenTX. So you either need to update OpenTX to the current version of OpenTX, or you need to update to the EdgeTX. If you're on the release version of the TX16S, you do not have Crossfire shot. It will not work. Let's see. MP says I killed my 9-volt rail. All my devices on it are 6S compatible. I could wire up a wire from VBAT to 9-volt and have power the whole 9-volt with VBAT. I would probably not do that because there could be filter caps on there. You could also like fry through something else that's not rated for VBAT. I imagine that also shares a ground somehow, or like the ground might be separated. I don't know. I probably would not do that. I would separately wire them if it were me, just in case. Then you need to update Froster. I mean, you should be able to see the version, like every single version of OpenTX I've ever seen shows the version of the settings. But if for some reason you do not see it, then you need to update. If you said you got the release version, then you definitely need to update. Like, there's not a question there. You don't need to check the version. You don't need to do any testing. You don't need to plug a module in. You don't need to look for Crossfire shot. You definitely need to update. 100%. Yeah, 80 sounds right to me, frequently fascinated, but I have no idea with Tracer because it's all FHSS. One day they'll do LoRa. I think it looks like ExpressLRS is beating Tracer to having both. So Ghost and ExpressLRS will both have FHSS and LoRa options. And Trappy will be more wrong. What do you know? You cannot flash anything to EdgeTX radios. or to TBS radios. Alberex, I don't know what you're saying. What can you not do if using Freedom TX and Express LRS? 500 hertz, I know, but other than that, I'm pretty sure everything else works. I mean, if your LQ is 168 3 feet away, or 68 3 feet away, then you got to fix something. Like, you got to look at your receiver, you got to look at your, I mean, basically look at everything. Yeah, look at your receiver, look at your antennas, look at your TX, look at your power, look at all the things. Yeah. Double, triple check everything. If you've got a different RX, try the different RX. If you can reset everything, reset everything. Yeah, all kinds of different testing I would probably be doing. Just like you got to start eliminating variables. Mystery D's here. How's it going? Oh, Callie, I think I missed your $10. Thank you so much for the $10, there, Callie. I don't know if I mentioned that. I was kind of mini ran there. Jonathan, I don't think they're waiting. I think they're just taking their sweet ass time coding it. Same thing as the radios. Like, they're just taking their sweet ass time. I mean, Ghost does both, and Express LRS will do both as a V2. So I mean, I don't think they're waiting on anything. I think they just haven't done it yet. Trappy said they were working on it, so. Right, Alberex, I mean with your external module. If you go in the Crossfire Lua settings of your external module on a Freedom TX radio, you should see Crossfire shot on the external module, not the internal module. The internal module doesn't need Crossfire shot because it's synced to the mixer by default. That's my point. Yeah, Trappy said they were doing it. He already said that on a couch a couple times. It's just taking their sweet ass time. One IFPV, because they clearly are missing developers. They're working on RTOS support. That changed in the last EdgeTX OpenTX releases, so they're trying to get RTOS fixed, and then they'll finish the merge. But that will be happening eventually, for sure. You missed it. You got to watch the news, because every week on the news we talk about stuff just like this, and we did a story on just that. So don't forget to go catch up on the news if you miss it. For Rossiter, most of the EdgeTX things are eventually getting merged in. The problem is the whole point of EdgeTX is that nobody is accepting PRs. So like 1 in 10 PRs get accepted OpenTX, get accepted EdgeTX. Developers don't get contact from the developers at OpenTX that they're getting on EdgeTX. You can't get everything pushed through at the same rate. So like a lot of the PRs are getting sent in both places, but the acceptance time, the time for a next release, those things are the problems. EdgeTX's whole point is to like be on the edge and develop things before they get pushed to open. Like that was the whole point of it. So it'll be up to OpenTX developers to make sure that happens. That's what I would say. And the whole reason we have Edge is because that wasn't happening. Like that is if you go to edgetx.org, like that's the mission statement. It's like, hey, we're like early OpenTX, so we'll have features before. But it doesn't mean they're like beta features that break the radio. It just means that they're happening before. They've been developed before OpenTX. They're also going to a different numbering system. I believe they're going to like actual traditional numbering instead of the old style numbering. So like the next release will be 2.6, and the next release will be 2.7, and the next major will be 3. I believe at least that's how they're handling it, which is how a lot of projects are going to, from my understanding. Like the numbering, for instance, the numbering on like BL Heli S is all 16 point something. It's like I get why, but also that's weird. All the numbering on BL Heli 32 is 32 point something. That really goes in waves, doesn't it? Like everybody's got to talk, everybody's got a question, and then nobody's got a question. Bry's here. How's it going, Bry? Bry, I'm still trying to come up with my first programming project, my first real project. I've been really thinking about it. Johnny D says it started raining over there. Sorry to hear that, man. That is a bummer. Crabtree says, what 5-inch do you fly freestyle? Mainly a FetTech Source 1 and a Skyliner HD with Betaflight. It's like a JB F4 and a Mamba F50 or something. For Rossiter, I think that totally depends on the development. Clean Flight was somebody will have to tell me because I was not around at that time, but somebody will have to tell me. But my understanding was, Clean Flight is was supposed to continue. It was supposed to continue to push and develop and like be its own branch, and then just never did. I don't really know exactly what happened with all that, but Betaflight was kind of meant to be in the same case. So I think to me, it's going to be totally dependent on OpenTX development as to whether that happens, but I don't know enough about that story. I'd love to know more though, if anybody can tell me. I need to like interview Hydra and a bunch of like that would be cool. That would be fun. Thanks, Bry. Yeah, whenever you can, that's cool. I'll check it out after the stream for sure. Well, if Clean Flight is Flight 1, then that's a nightmare, and I'm sorry that happened. That's really unfortunate that that happened. Albrechtson in the news. Cool. Sounds good. Thank you very much. One Eye says, what does BL stand for and all those EL Heli stands for? No idea. I think maybe like bootloader or something, but I really have no idea. Cool Cat's here. How's it going, Cool Cat? Henry's doing great, man. He's doing good. As you can see from the old cam here, he's doing well. One Eye FPV, I have no idea. I think it depends on what the project's actually going to be. I've done stuff before, but it's never been like a standalone project. It's been like I've coded mods for the game Rust. Like maybe 15 hours of C sharp I spent, doing that. And then I've done like C++ text adventures and stuff. So Crabtree says race flight with Falco X. Okay, that makes more sense. I didn't think clean flight went there, but I think Dominic Clifton does help design H7 stuff. But that's funny. Yeah, I don't know what the project will be on. Python seems like apt for what people use. Python seems to be popular these days, so I really have no idea. At this point, I'm down to take suggestions, but everybody just seems to be like, I like this language a lot. And I'm more like, what's the useful language that a lot of people use and that I could maybe like get a part-time job with or something, you know? Not that I really like. I kind of don't need a job, but it'd be cool to like learn programming so that I could actually help with these projects, you know? BL is brushless. That makes sense. Doesn't BL Heli work for? No, it doesn't. Because they do direct drive. Yep, that makes sense. James Flores said, you said earlier there are a lot of factors when flying, one of them being adrenaline. How do you deal with that? I had a panicky moment. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the stream, but I think it's kind of different for each person. There's cognitive behavioral stuff you can do to talk to yourself and remind yourself, um, like that everything you're feeling is just a reaction. There's a lot of practice and training and just doing it over and over again that might help. Um, you can do beta blockers or other medicines and stuff. So I think the main thing is, try to do the best you can with breathing and do some research on Google for other people who deal with adrenaline. And then if you're not able to deal with that, as you might talk to a doctor about solutions with that. I'd recommend not a benzodiazepine. Something like a beta blocker is very positive and non-addictive. At least physically addictive. Anything can be technically mentally addictive. Glad to hear that, cool cat. Yeah, circa 2013 Rust was totally different. I coded mods like a year or two ago. So they got drones and shit in Rust now. Dave says RG runs Python scripts to do that. And then he says Java for a job, C++ for doing anything. Matthew says JavaScript and Python are probably good places to start. Cool Cat loves the Henry Cam. Oh. Crabtree says smoke crack. I don't know how helpful that is, Crabtree. Uh, Neek says I took C++ in high school. Does that count for anything? If you know C++ at all, maybe. One Eye says write a Python script to build custom OpenTX sound packs from existing audio and video sources available on YouTube. Boy, that seems like a lot. If we're not pulling them random. Yeah, the gyros are a blast. We did a couple custom servers a while back for getseedsrighthere.com, which is like a cannabis seeds website. I know Bike that runs that, and I ran with another guy. I ran a private server, and then we would invite people, and they would compete for seeds. Um, Probably like, hey, can you find the base to raid, and then can you get in there and get enough explosives over the weekend and stuff. That sort of stuff. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, but like one, I don't. I understand the behind the scenes like idea of it, but like how would I choose what to pick? Like what part of the program or what am I doing to like choose how to clip it and like what to clip out of it and like what's important and what's not and what's different and who it's from and like all that stuff. Like that's the more confusing part about it. It's like what's the goal of it, right? Are you saying like somebody would pick like, hey, I want to clip this stuff out of the YouTube video and then I want to use this for the sound pack and then people are picking it? James Flores says, I won't smoke crack, but I'll try the cognitive training and keep telling myself it's just a reaction from the flying. That's one way to do it. Like I said, it's called cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. If you do a little research on CBT on YouTube and the like, you might find some good info on it. Uh, yeah, thanks for the $5, man. I really appreciate it. But that is one way that can really help. Also, like underrated stuff, man. But meditation, if you get some of that energy out, like if you like clean it out, every day, can really help. Also, exercise can help. Like all those things that help anxiety will also help those adrenaline spikes, because you don't run out, but like you learn more about how adrenaline works in your body. Your body gets more used to using it. I know my anxiety is so much better. Those little situations are so much better if I do any kind of exercise or even like heavy stretching. Yoga is really good. Um, all that stuff helps. You just get so tired you can't get scared. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I just know what I have done as far as like my experiences with anxiety and therapy stuff. And then you also have to do other things like this is part of the reason you would like kind of do self-analysis. And then if you feel like there's an issue, you would go to the doctor or talk to a therapist about it. And that's because like is it only this time? Like maybe you only have it like once or twice. Um, maybe you only have it like when you fly, and maybe that's okay. Maybe that's not a big deal, and you just need to like have a little practice flying or get more used to it. Um, one of the big things you learn when you do anxiety therapy and when you look at taking medicines or when you look at like how you're doing in your therapy, there's a lot of talk about how does it affect you and what is the end result of the things. Like, okay, you get increased anxiety in these social situations, but if you're able to work through it and there's no negative to it, then at some point, like, is it worth, like how much of this do you want to do? Can you maintain it? Can you push it back with cognitive behavioral? Or is there a reason to intervene with something else? I think those things are very important to consider. Again, all stuff a doctor does with you. And again, I'm going to point this out. There's a difference between an adrenaline spike and an uncontrollable shaking and physically unable to fly and uncomfortableness and unhappy, right? Those are two different things. Let's just be clear about that. You just get an adrenaline spike and you can fly back and everything's great. Maybe you just had a good time, like if you have an adrenaline spike, you can't control yourself. You start shaking and sweating and you can't stand up. That's a totally different world we're living in. One eye FPV, it's not a panic attack. A panic attack is much more severe, totally different, um, and is debilitating. Like we're talking about this. So there's a difference between a panic attack would be more on the come up on adrenaline, right? Or like as you ramp up. We're talking about the other side, or at least I'm talking kind of about the other side here, where like you go up on adrenaline, but then you crash out of adrenaline. And then when you run out of adrenaline and you're on the other side of it, you like start to get very shaky because you have burned all that adrenaline and now your body's coming out of it. Or at least that seems to be like what we were talking about. I think the panic attack's more on the ramp up, or at least has been for me. I've been on the verge of panic attacks a couple times, but I've never actually had a panic attack. I don't know. I've talked to doctors about it, and they're like, I think you had a panic attack. And I'm like, well, I was still able to get around and walk and physically function and stuff. And they're like, yeah, but you're describing. I'm like, okay, whatever. That's the other the great thing about doctors is it's just like there's a whole spectrum. So make sure you're talking to multiple people if you can, if you have that luxury. We gotta run and grab another soda because I'm out of soda. And we're back. Nick says, Henry, say something. He's a little quiet today. He's pretty sleepy. There's some different cam quality going on. You compare that to that in white balance. This is like a webcam. Yeah, he would probably be down with the dog couch. Or I could just move the couch in here. Thought about that before. Which one's more accurate? I don't know. It kind of looks more accurate in the garbage camera. If we can find it. I think it should be like right here. That seems way too warm. Somewhere in there, maybe? Yeah, how's that? Henry is 7.5-ish, somewhere in there. 7.25, 7.5. Got him when he was just over 5. He does need a throne. I mean, I agree with that. He deserves a throne. I don't know what the Runcam 5's draw is, but as long as that 5-volt mech can handle it, that sounds like a good plan. I feel like that draw's got to be fairly high, though. Dave. Now that I have OG cams in all my builds, what do I think about all these 60 FPS cams? I have no idea, to be honest with you. That's my answer is I don't know. Small builds, I mean, night builds. So the polars would go on stuff you fly at night. The nanos would go on small stuff. Yeah, Neek says worst case, like if you had to replace something you break, it's not a bad option. Frequently fascinated. Let's see. Let's see if I can remember where the test is at. We'll just look. Yep, here we go. All right. Making it happen. So, there we go. This is Henry's mix. Super Mutt, for him it lists Collie, Norwegian Elkhound, and Australian Shepherd as possible in the 12.6%. Same way they do it with humans, Meek. Same process. They do the same thing where they like identify haplotypes and all that jazz. No, he barks at people. That's what he does. He barks heavily at people. He was a rescue, so anybody who doesn't know, Henry was a rescue. I got him about 5.5. And basically that whole time he was in an environment where he was just getting hit a lot and mistreated, and I don't know. I've been over this story a couple times on the old stream, but anyway, he came into me on Prozac and Trazodone, and I eventually weaned him off both Prozac and Trazodone, and now he doesn't need them. So he has a little bit of anxiety stuff still. I mean, a lot of anxiety stuff still, but it wasn't much better on the medicine. But he didn't have a life before. You know, he wasn't like happy at all. So now he's happy and like seems to like have a life. So oh, you know I'm talking about you. Yes, you do. Yeah, he's a good pup. He's very scared of being away from me and being away from the house. So he's protective of people who come in, and he doesn't want to be outside for very long. I can't walk him, unfortunately. He doesn't walk. If we put a leash on him and then we try to go walk, he'll basically like lay down and drag me back to the house. He just can't handle it. But when I got him, he was so bad he would like pee himself and sometimes poop himself. Like when anybody new came in or when he met me. But now, um, he doesn't do that at all. He just barks, gets upset. He's past all the release of the bowel thing. So we do well. We've done CBD before, but I didn't see a big difference in him from the CBD. So I ended up stopping because just because there's like there's talks about liver stuff with it, and because there was no benefit for me that I saw, I didn't continue with it. If I saw a benefit, though, I'd probably still be doing it. He really liked the oil. I mean, he loved to take it, but it was just because I put it in coconut oil. Um, yeah, yeah. Every dog I've ever had has been a rescue. Every dog my family's ever had has been a rescue. Hillside FPV. Will you ever use telemetry? That's a question to ask yourself. There should be dynamic power coming in the next, I think, in V2 of Express LRS, so that will require telemetry to do dynamic power because it has to be able to tell what the RX LQ is to change the TX power. Otherwise, it'll be max power. Personally, though, I have never used telemetry other than dynamic power on Crossfire, so it wouldn't be like a deal breaker to me. I also would not be doing the soldering because it looks really difficult. Um, so I would probably be fighting with them a lot, trying to get them to take it back for free. But barring that, I would probably not worry about it. Yeah, Joseph, you definitely want to buy. I wouldn't personally with the dog. I wouldn't use any kind of like full spectrum oil. I would be using just like a carrier oil with isolate in it, just in case there's any amount of CBD in the other stuff. It's just not great for them. They can definitely take CBD or THC, but it's a little rough on them. So, I mean, he's eaten out of my ashtray before, and it was like really. I mean, it was rough. He was like not doing great. So I would not suggest that if you can help it. Try to do like a isolate. Um, Trying to think of who like I would recommend right now. Uh, See if they're. What the hell is the name of that company? I don't know why I cannot remember the name of this company. Um, I'll be right back. Okay. Fully activated is one that I use. You see that? Probably not. I think I have it on manual focus. It's fully activated. They're good. Fullyactivatedcbd.com. And then I also have purchased from agripurecbd.com. They seem pretty legit. So far, this CBD has worked as well. But I would recommend one of those to probably your CBD source. Or, sorry, fully activated CBD. There's so many fucking companies. That's who I've used anyway. And they've been good, well priced before. Let's see what fully activated is charging right now. You can get single grams for $10 for a while. Yeah, $12 for a single gram. $35 for 3.5, so $10 a gram. Goes under 10 if you get 7. So that's a good price. Bry says coconut. Speaking of coconut oil, when making edibles, does THC go into solution with coconut oil? Well, it goes into it seemingly okay. I haven't ever heard of any issues with it. I read that sunflower oil gave a better extraction. Yeah, I would think it's fine. Yeah, you want to buy isolate. That's what I would recommend. It's just buying isolate and then mixing it with the carrier oil, like a coconut oil. That's what I would do for the pets. And then it's kind of up to you how much you use, but I tried a bunch of different amounts. If you just Google, like, that's insanely overpriced, 1IFPV. I mean, it's full spectrum, but like, what does that mean? You know, full spectrum hemp, and then what's in it? Like, to me, that's insanely overpriced. But I'm not a full spectrum kind of person, so. Um, like, if we compare that, like, we could do a quick comparison there. They sell a full spectrum powder fully activated. That basically they do the distillate, and then um, they mix in like a little bit of the extra stuff from the hemp oil, and that ends up being 20 a gram. So that 3,000 milligrams would be $60 instead of 130. I'm sure they have a full spectrum oil too here, but I don't know what they're charging for it. That's like around the same price as you're talking about. So I'm not a believer in full spectrum though. I think this is snake oil, to be honest with you. They also have CBG isolate, which is interesting. It works pretty well for anxiety as well. So worthwhile to give it a shot. Not sponsored. Wish it was. Not sponsored. Let's see. Farmer's FPV says, I have a problem with my Vista after hard crash. I only get full bitrate if I use 200 milliwatt or less. Do you have it on what you call it? Temperature control mode or low temp mode or whatever it's called? Where it throttles based on the temperature? If not, then no, that sounds pretty weird. And you're powering it directly from LiPo. Yeah, I don't have any idea. there's no way the Vista would like know if you crash. You know what I'm saying? So you got to like attribute it to something else. To me, that would be like a crash means you're stable for a little while, and it's sitting still, getting hot maybe or something. I don't know. That's something you're gonna have to dig further into, I think. If that's the case, the crash is gonna be doing something. So then you gotta figure out what the crash is doing. Banging into a table, uh, let it get hot. Maybe a couple different things. Just like try to work through those troubleshooting steps of like what the heck is going on here. But no, that's not something I directly am aware of. Esponder's here. How's it going, Esponder? Welcome to the chat. Hey, Memphis FPS is in the Twitch chat. How's it going, man? Don't get a lot of people over there. Glad to see you. I am multi-streaming in 3 places today. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, and we are on Twitch. Michael Lowndes, not in particular. Store does not make shit for money, so I'm not big on restocking it, but hopefully I will be able to soon. Hopefully soon. What was that? Oh, EBR FPV followed over on Twitch. Thank you so much. I'm It's Blunty over on Twitch as well, so you should just be able to go twitch.com/itsblunty. Or hop on over to Twitch and search It's Blunty. Farmer's FPV says, with quad plugged in next to me, bitrate drops from 25 meg to 19 when I select 500, up to 1200 it drops to 17. So yeah, that sounds like, so the first thing I would do, you're sure you're directly on battery power? You're not going through like VBAT pads and maybe there's some weirdness going on or anything. You're directly like hooked up to that battery. Then yeah, I would take a look and see. I would probably plug in both the Vista and the goggles. If you don't have another quad, then the Vista and the goggles. But if the goggles work fine on another quad, just the Vista, and re-flash the firmware on it, so that everything is back to normal and everything is fresh. Maybe even go in the goggles before you do that and do a reset. There's like a menu in the device menu for the reset. And then see if you're still having that issue. That sounds more like a little bit buggy shit going on than it does to be like intentional. Again, I've never heard that though. When you do go up in power though, I mean, I could see it dropping based on incoming power, but I would not expect that to happen based on you being plugged directly into the battery. So, also one thing you could try if you have a bench power supply or any other way to get power, maybe you try powering the quad or the Vista directly from a power supply so that you don't lose any voltage, and just see if you give it infinite amperage, if it'll go up without dropping. Just something to try. North Shore Drones is here. How's it going? Yeah, I am live. Absolutely. Live for another 25 minutes or so. We're going to go for 2 hours. Just so you guys know for the future, we're going to do Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. MST. That's going to be the plan. We'll see how that goes. Ram Donko's here. How's it going? All your quads are broken. I'm sorry to hear that, bud. Yeah, Kelly, I saw that post earlier. We shall see about that 1 watt VTX. It's been in testing for a long time now, so I don't think they would send it production if it wasn't ready, but hopefully it'll be awesome. Last 3D is a fan of the emotes over on Twitch. Yeah, they're pretty cool. EBR FPVs over on Twitch as well. Yeah, I figure we'll multi-stream wherever anybody wants to show up. I can kind of see all of them. All the chat should show up on our main screen for everybody. That is not still an issue, Crabtree. That was never an issue, actually. If you reset to factory, if you were already activated, it would always go back. Basically, they patched 1.02 to fix that. There was like a bug that would be opposite like the activation problem, but that was fixed at 1.02, which was like 4 months ago, 6 months ago, something like that. So yeah, if you've ever activated the V2 goggles, there's no risk in resetting them. Nerdcopter's here. How's it going? I don't think Twitch has Velocidrone in the options. I don't know how you get that. Facebook doesn't either, and I don't think YouTube does either. So it'd be really cool to see that choosable. Maybe Twitch can, but I know that YouTube, you can't pick Velocidrone as a game. It's kind of annoying. Okay, Twitch does have it. Gotcha. So how do we get YouTube to add it? Oh, thanks for the subscription. Camp call. Appreciate that. Well, I'm streaming to both, so the pros and cons are not super relevant, but for anybody who streams full time on Twitch, you're not allowed to stream anywhere else. So I'm just streaming on Twitch as like an extra thing. But if you're a partner, then you're not allowed to stream in other places. YouTube doesn't have any restrictions like that. You also can't put your VODs up on YouTube for, I don't know, it's either a day or 7 days, or there's some kind of delay on the VODs on YouTube as well. I think it's a day. I think that's right. Oh yeah, Twitch deal is horrible unless you like are one of the few people on Twitch who will be a if you're like if you're one of the few people who will ever make money on Twitch, it's a good deal. Otherwise, it's never a good deal. It's a terrible deal. And you should not be partnered on Twitch. Very few people should be partnered on Twitch. Twitch has no discoverability for new creators. Twitch has like a horrible like organization system. I don't know. I'm not a fan of Twitch at all, to be honest with you. It's just like a weird platform. I'm just hitting the multi-stream button, so it happens to show up there too. And if people want to see me there, then they can. So I don't mind. But I just like, yeah, there's a lot of issues with Twitch. Also, like they did that, like, hey, pay to boost this person in the metrics. Like that's really stupid. Really, that's really stupid. Ram Dunko, if you're on Betaflight 4.2 and configurator 10.7, then you still have to do it in CLI. If you are on 10.8.4.3, then there is a motor remapping button. But you should only do that if you're on 4.3. Yeah, I think Twitch will be overtaken fairly soon. That's a funny question. Playing gamer for life. Hey, do you smoke weed? If so, do you like it? Yes and yes. Oh, well, I think people, there's like a double meaning to my name, though my logo was a weed leaf, or has a weed leaf incorporated, but yeah, my name is It's Blunty. It's not just because I'm a blunt person. Right, Chat, how's it going? Good to see you. I don't know when we're racing. The H3 says my favorite combo is Golden Goat 4 and Crockett Tangy. In a Euro spliff or a blunt. Yeah, I like that Crockett Tangy a lot better than the other Tangy. That Crockett Tangy is fire. Holmes Lazy says, hi all, I've been with one of my TBS Nano RXs shouting telemetry loss, telemetry recovery, but no control issue. Yeah, that makes sense. So same settings on 3 other builds, but no issues. If you're running Crossfire on all those other builds and you're only having the issue with one of your receivers and not all the other ones, then I would do the emergency reset. If you go in the manual or you Google Crossfire emergency reset, there's like a button combination where you hold it as you power on, let go, and then hold it again. It'll reset you back to the golden firmware. And then it should reboot and let you rebind and all that jazz, and then it should be working. If that doesn't fix it, there's, maybe some other weirdness, but I would personally guess that maybe there's something wrong with the telemetry on the actual RX. Because again, like if the other ones are working but that one's not, then that is pretty odd. If all of them aren't working or you're seeing telemetry loss, telemetry recovery from a radio on Crossfire and it's multiple builds, then typically it's like an inverter issue or a baud rate problem. CH3 used to live in Barcelona and work in a dispensary. Awesome. Yeah, you can update your TX firmware, but I don't know that I would upset that because then that's going to update all the RXs, the other RXs too, that are already working. So that's why I kind of like want to go with Golden first and let it reflash the TX firmware that we know already worked for the other RXs. Maybe something just went wrong last time it flashed. Because the RX is pulling the firmware over the air from the TX. So, but then I agree, if that still doesn't work, maybe reflash the TX firmware. It's just a little weird that all the others happen to work. That's not a terrible idea. North Shore Drone says maybe a short or broken wire on the RX. Yeah, if only the TX wire was broken, maybe you would have problems with telemetry. But I don't know that it would go in and out. No, that actually would not be the case, right? Okay, that's something I don't know. Does OpenTX or EdgeTX yell at you if you only lose some of the sensors? Can anybody tell me that? Like, let's say you lose the flight controller sensors, but you still have all the RX sensors. So you still see LQ and you still see RSSI and you still see all the other stuff. But you're not getting like RX bat or like reported sensors, like the Okay, so if it doesn't yell at you, then it's not the wire. Then it's something to do with the over-the-air connection, because the RX can send telemetry regardless of getting a signal from Betaflight. That's what I would say then. So it's got to be something about that crossfire connection. Bryce says it's a sensor lost instead of telemetry lost if it yells at you. So if you're seeing telemetry lost, that's all the sensors dropping out, right? Okay, that makes more sense. Farmer's FPV. It is possible if it like never goes any higher after the super hard crash, like permanently, that there is internal damage in that Vista. If it's like only after like, I think I misinterpreted the original question. I thought you meant like after any time you crashed, it started doing it. But if it's like permanent now, then it's very possible there is some internal damage in there. But I would definitely try reflashing firmware and kind of going through everything first. Like recheck your power wire, make sure like all that connection's still good, and nothing got like frayed or bent or like squeezed in between or like carbon got cut or something. Like I've seen before where the Vista wire comes down and then is in between carbon and then the actual Vista. Well, I guess it was an air unit in this case, but then it rubbed through with the carbon and the wire through the air unit, and then it shorted onto the air unit. So I could see something like that happen where you're draining some of that power out of there, and you're not delivering what you would expect. But I ain't no electrician either. I got you, Bri. Okay, sensor lost timeout is longer than the second that the telemetry lost timeout is. Good to know. Cool Cat says, I want to buy my American buddy a drone. What kit would be a good start for him? I'm planning to buy a cheap set of box goggles too and an entry level TX already and know what to buy. Um I don't know about kit. Kit's hard. Especially these days. Like what level are you talking about he's gonna be? Like does he care about software? Does he want to work on anything? Uh yeah, I mean I think I would want to know the level. Like, yeah, Cetus is like super entry level, and then you can work up from the Cetus to like, like what is it? The not the baby hawk, the not the tiny hawk, freestyle, the tiny hawk freestyle. I feel like that's a pretty solid choice. But then that controller is terrible. So then you kind of want a better controller. So I think we got to know more about the Sitch. Hey, Nefrain, how's it going? Good to see you as well. Well, got about 10 minutes left. It is getting to be indoor season for a lot of people, that's for sure. Yeah, Thomas, telemetry lost or recovered is only the signal back. So remember, telemetry comes from the receiver back to the radio. So it dropping in and out is actually, it's not crazy. You do not need telemetry to fly, and it's not really an indicator of the link the other direction. Yeah, the Mob Light 7 is a great choice. It's a little, probably a little bit, what do you call it? Fragile? I don't know that it's super fragile, but it seems a little more fragile for me than a 65, like a standard 65. So, but it totally depends on what you're trying to do. Soul Entropy says, springtime here. Finally got a 5-inch rebuilt. Good to hear that, man. Good to hear that. Isaac's still thinking about indoor DJI build. Yeah, it's just very heavy. What's the weight on that new, let's take a look. Hold on. In case you didn't know, that Sharkbite VTX came out. What's the weight on this guy? So 6.2, and a couple grams on the camera. That's not too bad. We're getting definitely in the level of whoopability here. I know there's already Sharkbite whoops, but 6.2 is pretty cool. It's 20 by 20, but you can make that work on a whoop. Nafrane, the only Cinewhoop I have any experience with is a Slam Squirt. Seems to perform well, but I don't know what I would choose if I was looking again. I got the Slam Squirt for very cheap. Like, including DJI Air Unit, entire Slam Squirt, original OG cam, all that stuff. It was $225. This is like 8 months ago or something. Yeah, the cockroach frame is definitely pretty solid. The new Mob 6 frame is solid. I definitely heard that as well. Trial FPVs here. How's it going? Good to see you. Jamie Patterson. Got any tips on balancing a motor? One of my Mambas arrived unbalanced. I don't. How would you even know it's unbalanced? I've never even heard of that before, so no, I have no idea. Like, I know that they use balancing putty at the factory, but I don't know how you would know it's not balanced. Or how you would balance it at home without some kind of rig. Trial says any setup tips and tricks for indoor whoops, also what software to run. Uh, I don't know. I'm fine with Betaflight. I think they fly fine. Um, but Betaflight or Emu Flight seems like the place. Not really any tips or tricks. I don't really have any of those. I mean, turn off D-Min or turn on D-Min. I guess it depends on how you want to fly the quad. I've never heard that, E-Doc. Turn off runaway protection? Why would you want to do that? Or what is happening on the Whoop to need that? That's a new one for me. Hard maneuvers will trigger runaway protection on Whoops. Interesting. Definitely say I've never seen that, but I guess that's a thing. Yeah, I mean, I've whooped raced many times. I've been to large whoop races and stuff. I've just never disabled it. So that's interesting to hear. I've never triggered it in a race or crashing or anything. Interesting. Okay, yeah, I don't really know what I would do there. Yeah, there is a Tony Hawk Freestyle kit with the Beta FPV Lite radio, but I mean, that radio is not much better than an Emax radio, in my opinion. Yeah, at this point, I would probably be running Blue Jay over any Jazz Maverick builds, just because Blue Jay is actively being updated. Jess is no longer actively working on Jazz Maverick. Project Mockingbird seems to be like, hey, let's turn up the PIDs to over 100. Okay, cool, we're done. I mean, PMB seems cool, and I love what he's done over there, but also it just seems like, hey, let's jack the shit out of these PIDs. Because that's what he does. Look at any PMP or any PMB I've seen lately, it's just like, oh, every single PID's over 100. Cool. I'm very happy with how my whoops fly, like 60 on my PIDs, so. Espender, I don't know. You'd have to do the numbers. Henry. I don't know offhand. I think Mark Spatz has a good breakdown on his website. There's also a huge range difference there, but see if we can find that article. UAV Tech. Um, let's see. Link to that video. This video. There we go. All right. Let's see. What did you do crossfire on? Is it 150 hertz or 50 hertz? Wait, why? Okay, this is 150. Okay. So if you compare end-to-end latency, telemetry off, sync off on XpressLRS is like 5, and then depending on your settings, you can go up to like 12. And that's with telemetry and sync on, and then crossfire is 10. So, and then you got to look at jitter. So blue is crossfire jitter versus, purple is 50 jitter, but we want, this is all 50. Let's see. So yeah, you want pink and purple. So good jitter there. And then the same with the XpressLRS jitter. You just got to bump for the telemetry. But so it's about double if you're on 500 with telemetry off and sync off compared to 150 on Crossfire. And obviously the range is a shit ton longer because it's a LoRa link. Maybe Cool Cat, maybe you just want to do like the Bardwell. I mean, I don't know what you're trying to spend here, but to me, from what you're saying, then you probably want to do something like the Bardwell kit. If there's a video series too, right? So that he has to build it. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. That's probably somewhere where I would lean there. For on FPV, yeah, your OSD, I believe, is going to be more delayed. You're going to have issues with OSD delay or late updates on soft serial from everything that I've seen. It will work, but there's going to be some delay there. I think the companies that ship I believe the companies that ship low on a UART, like some of the long range stuff on small boards, they'll put GPS on soft serial instead of running the Vista OSD on soft serial. But I do believe it will still work. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. We were about 2 hours and 5 minutes in here, so I'm going to call the stream. I'll be back Thursday at 1 p.m. To see you fine folks and see what's happening. Do another stream like this. Hopefully every week. So Monday 1 p.m. MST, Thursday 1 p.m. MST. I'll be here. So hopefully you'll be here. If you're watching this after, I hope you enjoyed it. So let me know. Reach out to FPV News. News at fpvknowitall.com if you got some news. Don't forget. And again, I appreciate you being here with us. So, yeah. Later, folks.